This is my fancy bread machine. Okay, so I'm seeing this for the first time as well. It's not my best loaf, I must say. A lot of times what happens is the top just doesn't form a good tight tension, and so you get like this bumpy top, and it happens probably more often than it doesn't, honestly, at least in this bread machine. I think there's better bread machines. Again, I got this one on Marketplace for a really good price, and it was used. And I just think different machines have different, just like anything else, there are certain machines that might be better than others. So it's usually pretty hot. It also looks like, which doesn't normally, this has never happened. Like this right here, I've never seen that in a loaf. So that's kind of weird. What a lot of people will do, and what I have done in the past is, so what I was going to say is what a lot of people do and what I have done in the past is just use the machine for like getting the dough ready and then taking it out before it beeps at you when it's basically ready to be baked, or when the machine's going to start baking it. And what you can do is pull it out, shape it, and bake it in your oven. I think that's kind of pointless. I mean, I get it because you don't want your loaves to turn out like that, but I also sort of feel like, what's the point of having a bread machine? I can do the rest of it all myself. So you should pull this out of the pan pretty quickly, and get it, just so it doesn't get like moisture from the steam of the bread cooling. So I'm going to do that. All right. So it's usually pretty hot. This bottom especially is very hot. I usually take some sort of a plastic utensil, because you don't want to use metal on this pan. It's like a non-stick sort of coating. Just kind of loosen it around. It's usually comes pretty easily out. Now, the other reason why people sometimes like to just use the machine to sort of shape and get the dough ready, and then they shape it, or mix and get the dough ready, and then they shape it themselves, is because you'll see this bottom, the mixer in the bottom of this pan makes it smells really good. So there's a mixer in there, and what that does to the loaf, I gotta set this down, is puts a hole in the bottom, which I don't care. It's not like I'm trying to make it look pretty, but this bugs me on the top. It does. Like, I just want it to be like a really pretty, perfect loaf. And the last one I made was so good that kind of bummed. But it'll taste fine. It'll taste delicious. And yeah, I think it's just kind of the different bread machines are better. And again, this one is probably old and also not like the highest quality one. So you're supposed to let this kind of rest for 10 minutes before you cut it. I can tell it was actually done cooking about a half hour ago. And my machine doesn't actually turn off. I mean, it turns off, it stops baking, but because the lid is closed, it stays hot in there for a while. So, but I can tell just from the temperature of the pan that it is kind of cool enough. It's going to be really hot in there. And honestly, it's my bread. If I want to cut it, I'm going to cut it. Again, like, it's not like I'm trying to win awards for presentation of the bread. It's more, I want to eat hot bread. So I'm gonna eat some hot bread. Let's cut the side of the loaf that actually is a little bit puffier. And we'll see. So some people will cut like this way, right? So you get like nice squares. I like, it's weird. I can tell the texture of the bubbles and like how they've risen. And I just like cutting it the long way and then cutting the loaf in half when I'm done cutting it this way. So, but again, do what you want. I just like it a certain way. So if we cut the heel off first, or the butt of the bread, a good serrated knife to do that. So it turns out pretty good. Again, I cut it hot, so it's kind of ripped a little bit. But if you're like really cautious and you really saw with the knife, you can get a pretty good. It's hard to cut it evenly, you know, when it's with a knife, but you can see the crumb and what that looks like here. I will pull it up closer so you can get a better view. Ooh, it smells really good. I'm gonna eat some with butter because it's delicious, hot. That's why I'm like, I don't want to wait too long to cut it. It smells really good. I think it turned out really good. It's just not pretty. It's gonna taste good. So another trick that I do sometimes if I am awake while it's cooking is when it gets to that last step, I don't pull it out and bake it, but or not even the last step, while it's like beating, when I can hear it beating towards the end, I'll kind of go in and give it like tension on the side, just with my hand, so that the ball is got some tension on the top, so that you get a nice rounded top to the loaf. But again, it tastes really good, and I'm not trying to win prizes with appearance. Just really, I want it to taste good, and I use it for like sandwiches, and I've done all sorts of things. The beautiful thing about sourdough is because it's a natural starter, and it's a natural, there's very few ingredients. Really, it's just flour, water, salt, and yeast, either natural yeast or added yeast. The bread, because of the sourness, lasts so long. Like if I don't eat it all in a week, it is still, there's no mold on it for, I mean, it gets hard before it can get moldy usually. So it gets stale before moldy. And it might also be the way you store it. So I can show you a video on how I store it as well. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go eat some bread before it gets cold. It's good. Yep. Doesn't matter that it's not pretty. It tastes delicious. Hot bread with butter is like the best meal ever.